guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Renaissance Room podcast. And in today's episode, we are going to be talking about something that I just think needs to be said. First and foremost, listen, I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing you want to do is follow culture. People are just like, it's just one of those things to where when you realize how much so much stuff is just like merely entertainment, you need to just kind of like tap out. And so I hope you guys are on your path and doing your thing the way in which you know how to do it. Highly encourage that. So that goes for everything, right? We talked about church hurt, and everything else that's kind of become like a hot topic. You know what I mean? Like African American literature and so forth. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today. So I wanted to talk about rap culture, the music industry, and just how so many people look into, so many people take what Black people had to pretty much turn and make beautiful, and they glorify it, right? The hood, poverty, the aesthetic of Blackness, right? From the mannerisms to, all these different things that really are associated with Blackness, how it's only glorified in Hollywood, right? It's almost like people take this aesthetic kind of like, and they put it on and they take it off whenever it's convenient for them. And I started to notice the rise of rappers, female rappers, and I kind of talked about this on the column where I pretty much just kind of talked about how I do, I've heard women talk about how colorism kind of plays a role. I didn't really, I didn't dismiss it initially, but I didn't look into it thoroughly. So actually taking the time to kind of look into it, yeah, it's a pretty big thing, you guys. I can honestly say it makes a difference. So anyway, I was thinking about Black culture, and I started to really, because I always wanted to know, like, everyone talks about the disparaging, disproportionate statistics in regards to like Black men dating outside their race and so forth. And so I wanted to really know like why that was. And the answer finally came to me. And blatantly, it's only been 2 minutes within the podcast episode, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys the tea. It's not really tea, it's the truth. But, I found that the reality is that because Blackness is it's glamorized in Hollywood, and it's characterized as ignorance, aggression, all these different things, when you don't fit into that stereotypical, like Hollywood pedestalized, ignorant Black aesthetic, you are not seen as attractive, right? And I was thinking about how so many young Black guys feel the need to rush to, the hood and, be these kind of like dope boys or whatever, even though they grew up with two parents and so forth. And it's because you have absolutely no respect from others, right? And, those who were maybe around you. And so I started to listen to what some of the guys were saying who date outside their race. And this is not really just a matter of like interracial dating. It's more so just me looking into the guise of like Blackness, like really unpacking that and what that means for other people who are able to commodify and profit from Black culture. And it's tied into like all of these negative things. And so when you're a Black person and you're educated, you're intelligent, all the things that are opposite and completely adjacent from what society paints Black people as, that is not seen as attractive. And I realized how these stereotypes, not only do they permeate America's image of us, but it permeates us within our own communities, right? So I thought that was just a very interesting insight and revelation. I just wanted to bring that forward to you guys because it really says a lot. And whenever a Black person is anything outside of the stereotype that is permeated in the media, right? Whenever a Black woman is not overly sexual, she's seen as boring or, like a brute or like, you know what I mean? It's just all of these really, really negative connotations around people who just are Black, but they don't fit into exactly what society says they should be. And we know this, right? And I think this is a very interesting revelation, at least for me, because I realized that everyone is able to profit from Black culture, but not Black people. You think about the highest paid artists, right? And they are people who did not come from the bottom. They are people who, really painted their stories in a way that was like woven and intertwined in such a way that was just like, it just played exactly into the prototype, right? That Hollywood and a lot of the music CEOs and so forth have created of Black people. And I thought about how they were able to garner so much of attention by buying friends and influence, all under the guise of like Blackness, right? They profited the most from Black culture. And so that brought me to my other point, which is in regards to artists. I'll never forget, there was an interview I watched with James Baldwin and Maya Angelou. And it may have been Nikki Giovanni, but I'm pretty sure it was Maya Angelou. It was Maya. Mrs. Angelou, rather, actually. And they talked about how a real artist could never be famous. And I thought it was so profound, and I see how it comes full circle, because when you garner so much attention, after a while, it's no longer about you, it's about the people, and you have to kind of appeal to that. And I think about the colorism and how this plays a role. Well, one, you're able to appeal to a wider audience, right? You're able to appeal to white audiences who have this glamorization, right? This glorification of the hood and what it's like to be in the hood, and this rough ruggedness that is oftentimes sold to them. And then you also have the Black community, which is the real thing, right? So you're essentially taking that culture and then you're pushing it forward, but you're doing it with like liked arms, with white allegiance in the name of like pretty much just playing into the prototype, but it's not really you. So I just thought this was very interesting. And I want to leave by saying this. The entertainment industry is pretty much permeating everything. I think that at this point, we have been so comforted in our conveniences. And, I think now we're more so in a space where it's like we really just can't shake that. And so I think that what we have is the after effects, which is all of this psychological mental health and all these different issues that we're facing. So I realized that now it's more so like we just want to be entertained. And so at this point, I'm realizing that the rise of a lot of these artists, who's being exploited, who's simply willing to do whatever to garner, socioeconomic status. And it's very interesting because, I've seen recently on the news, there was a young girl who stole a Tesla, or a credit card for a Tesla. And you hear these things, but you don't really think people are actually like doing it, right? Like you hear people saying like, oh, people are willing to do whatever to get to the top or whatever, climb the social ranks and so forth. And, I have a solution. I have a solution because I really do think that there is something said about people who are not top earners. It's a very, really crappy thing, because in society you are treated completely different. You are treated completely, you are treated as if you are literally not even a human, and you don't receive the best out of life in terms of human interactions, social, so interactions and so forth. So it's a very dehumanizing thing. Poverty, it really is. But it's just funny how, these artists will glorify these things, right? They'll put the hood in their music videos and they'll make it seem like it's just this fun, turned, And I always question who's the director of this? Like, who's really putting on this show? Because that's not the reality. People are deprived. People are depressed. Being poor is depressing, and it's actually psychologically, it's traumatic. So anyway, I don't want to go too critical in the deep end there, but scaling back, it's just very interesting. So my point was, being a true artist, it's sad because you have so many real artists who don't garner the same profits per se. So it's just interesting to just kind of see like the ones who garner the most attention. It's like they're more so entertainers. It's not really about the artist anymore. It's about, and back in the day, there was a time where I feel like it really was about the artist. But I think since we have moved so far polar opposite to that, and then I think we got comfortable with the artist and the music and the work that was being created, shout out to the songwriters and so forth, that we just no longer cared about what people were saying about some of these artists, when people were saying, look, this person is not real, this person is made up, this person is, piggybacking off of the Black community, this person is just like super, super shady, fraudulent, or whatever. We kind of stopped listening to that, and it was like the truth kind of got washed out because we were just so into being entertained. Now, I want to end this podcast episode by saying that we always have to take a break from critical thinking, and we always have to shift gears, and we grow and we learn. I do think that the criticism that is going on right now in regards to like cultural criticism, which I think is actually pretty cool, because it just kind of says a lot. I mean, it's really informative rather, but I think we have to just kind of be mindful, take it in doses, allow yourself to relax, go out, smell the flowers, enjoy the rain, and so forth. Because I do think that critical thinking can have a way of making you really miserable. And, for me, we'll talk about overcoming that, because there was definitely a moment in my life where I was like, wow, the ability to look at everything in such a critical way. Like, sometimes it's okay to just have a little entertainment, sometimes it is okay to just relax and just be. But yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast episode. I thought this was really cool. And for more of this topic, you guys can check out my column. I'll leave the link in the bio. Peace.